Welcome to the Light Up podcast. I am your host, Amy Wilkinson. I'm an intuitive guide and soul mentor, and through this podcast, you will receive conscious conversations, powerful downloads, and soul-stirring activations that will both support and inspire you to tap into your intuition, follow that higher calling, and live a life aligned with your soul. Because you are here to co-create a life rich in abundance, freedom, and deep joy, and to unleash who you truly came here to be. And we're here to help you discover how to access that. So let's dive on in and light up. Welcome back to the Light Up podcast. Thank you for being here. Thank you for lending me your ears and your heart for this episode that is one that's close to my heart, that's been sitting in my field of late, not just because of what I have moved through and am integrating, because anything that I'm sharing in this podcast, it's things that I am living through or have lived through myself, but also what I've been really supporting my clients with as well recently. And this is the piece on visibility. And even that word might strike a chord in you, and that chord might be discomfort. And I'm talking here about putting yourself out there, making yourself visible. And this is a journey I feel like we all go through. I don't know if anyone is immune from this path when it comes to needing to make yourself visible in some way for your work, for the work that you're here to do. And so much of the time, unless you're a born actor or a born podcaster, maybe you are, maybe you came out of the womb and you're ready, you're ready to put yourself out there. But for many of us, it's a process. And it can be a really rocky one. And it can be one that can challenge and trigger us to the core. It can be one that literally puts us into a feeling of immobility and paralysis, right? And this might seem extreme, but we can have very visceral responses to this idea of needing to make ourselves visible for our work. And, we live in this era of social media and Instagram and TikTok, and I don't know all of the different channels. I tend to dwell more in the Instagram world, and of course now I've had to get over this new hurdle of putting my podcast out into the world, and you never know how it's going to be received. So I want to just speak to this a bit more today, because I just know how alive it is in many of us. And what I'm also noticing in my community and in people that I'm working with is this real calling to step up into soul's work. And I just want to remind you on that thread, on that note, that you are needed. Your work is needed, particularly if it's a role or if it's work that calls you to be a leader and be of service and support others or inspire others, whether that's by your words or your vision or your art, your creativity, right? Whatever it is, if there is a call within you to have an expanded impact in a way that supports and inspires others, I just want to remind you that you're needed, your work is needed. And so it's time. If you haven't already, it's time that we start to set down those stories and those beliefs, those false limiting beliefs that have been holding us back. And a big one here, a big fear, is this fear of being visible and what that means and what consequences that might have. I'm saying consequences, right? Like, you're not going to die. In this day and age, maybe, hundreds of years ago and in previous incarnations, some of us have been burned at the stake, or murdered, punished in some way for being visible, for using our voice in a certain way that goes against the norm, right? But in this day and age, you're not going to die. But for some, that fear of being judged or criticized or ridiculed, it feels very real in our nervous system. And, we can only expand and create to the level of safety that we feel in our nervous system. And there's that part of our brain, the amygdala, that is seeking safety. And it doesn't want to go where there's discomfort. It really doesn't. So, that part of the brain wants to talk ourselves out of making those steps or putting ourselves out there in a certain way, literally for fear of our safety. So I want to talk about this a little bit more, visibility. And for me, I've gone on this journey. If you're not familiar, I'll share a little bit about that just to give, I guess, some context of my own personal experience. But I had a yoga brand for 15 years that I created, Inner Bliss Yoga, and ran it with my husband, and we expanded into 3 beautiful studio locations, and we also created a flotation and wellness center as well. And I created this brand, and there was a certain level of safety with this brand, because whilst to an extent I might have been the face of it, I quickly shifted the focus a lot to other teachers that we had, people that we brought in, where I could, in a way, sit behind the brand and sit behind them and really look at promoting them. So in these last couple of years, when I started to feel more of a calling to expand in my own work and my own profile, that meant, having to make some really big decisions about what to do with the business, and could I do both? And so it was definitely a soul calling that I needed to follow, to take a bit of a leap, which meant letting go of the safety net of our business that was very familiar and comfortable, and there was a certain amount of ease because I knew what I was doing, and it ran really well, to letting that go and moving into a newer space. And, to do that and to really set yourself up in a new way and set up business in a new way in this day and age, particularly if you are creating a personal brand, visibility is a requirement. Like it or not, we need to be able to communicate and put ourselves out there and share our message and our voice so that it reaches the souls, the ears of those who we're meant to be working with. So that's been a really interesting journey over the last 6 months or so. And if you follow me on social media, you will have seen that my visibility has increased, and I've really had to get over myself, basically. And that process of getting over myself has required me to really take inventory on what are these limiting beliefs. What are these stories that I'm telling myself that are keeping me playing a certain role? And are they true? And this is the work, if you do any work with me, this is what we investigate into. It's not the superficial stuff. We go deep into, okay, what is it? What is there? What's showing up? So I just want to share with you today just some of the things that I am aware of around this visibility piece, some of the things that I'm aware of that might be in our way, and looking at also why do we fear visibility, and how can we get over this fear so that we can move forward. All right, so reasons why we might fear making ourselves visible. Right? This can stem from our upbringing, and a lot of the time it actually does. We are complete sponges between the ages of fetus when we're born, or before we're born, right? Even in the womb, I believe. And we can go back even further, and we will in a minute, but certainly from when we come into this world up into the age of 7, and in these earlier years, we are like sponges, and we just take into our subconscious, we pull into our subconscious what we are seeing in our external world, the stories that we're hearing, right? This is all setting up a paradigm that we are then going to keep living unless we do the work, unless we really start to investigate what's going on here. So perhaps there was someone that you noticed in your upbringing who was judged or shamed or ridiculed for putting themselves out there. Were they labeled as a show-off or too much? Okay, these are things that we notice and that we store, and this is subconscious. Right? We're often not aware of this, but if we do the work and we investigate, often there'll be a resonance and we might have a memory or a flash of something that's there. Tall poppy syndrome is very real in Australia. This phenomenon where, broadly speaking, people are resented or disliked or criticized for their success. I mean, we see this not just in Australia, but with women particularly who don't know how to celebrate the success of other women. Instead, there might be some judgment and some labeling around women for their success. Why is she doing that when she should be doing this? It's very easy to sit back and do that in some way, but really, that's our own insecurities and our own triggers. If we are the ones that are judging, it's because it's bringing up something within ourselves that we haven't met, that we haven't tended to, that we haven't healed. So that is, that's the reality. There is that judgment out there, like it or not. So, upbringing and having these ideas around how you're going to perceive are things that are going to hold us back from making ourselves visible. Past life experiences, you might have a sense of a past lifetime where you were punished or killed for speaking up or using your voice or making yourself visible, and that trauma can stay with us. Or perhaps it's ancestral. So if you didn't experience it yourself, but someone in your ancestral line had an experience of that. And these are very real obstacles, either that we've experienced or ones that we've absorbed from those around us. But nonetheless, it's there. And it's really important to acknowledge the different places where these fears might show up and the different reasons why they may show up. Okay. So, what do we do with this? How do we move through this? And again, these are things that I have been moving through myself. And I don't know if you ever get over it. It's just going to look a different, that obstacle and that feeling, it's just going to feel a bit different or look a different way. But there's certainly ways that it gets easier and that we can reconcile this within ourselves. And this is important. So to start with, you don't make this about you, right? For many of us that are called to this work, and for me, I'll speak to myself, I believe that I am a channel and a conduit for what wants to come through, the wisdom, the information, the guidance. So we need to be able to get out of our own way and not make it about us, not make it about me. When I make it about me, I'm going into my ego and I'm looking then outwards. I'm looking outwards for the recognition. And yeah, there's a part of us that seeks that. It's nice. It's nice to receive that. But when we're operating from that place where that recognition becomes a metric, where that recognition is a requirement, then we are disconnecting from why we're here and why we're doing this in the first place. So can you start to make it about something else, something bigger? Right? What are you doing this for? Come back to your why. Is it to be of service? Is it to be a channel? Is it to help, to support? So really clarifying why you're doing something is going to help you to get out of your own way and make it about that then. I am here to be of service. I am here to follow this calling. It's alive in me. And if you've got that idea to do something, if you've got that vision or that inclination, it is because you are meant to bring it to life. And you would not have that vision or that idea, the sense of it in the first place, if you didn't have the capacity to move forward with it and to bring it to life. Okay, this I really know to be true. And then the other question that I'd love for you to ask yourself, here's another invitation. What if making yourself visible actually sets someone else free? What if your visibility unlocks a key or a code for someone else and gives support, permission, or inspiration to someone else? Wouldn't it be worth it then? You know, one thing that I do when I put up an Instagram post or a reel, or even with this podcast, I'm like, if this just reaches the heart of a few people and has an impact and supports those few people, then it is worth it. And I'm not attached to the outcome of, but do they like it? How do they feel about it? Because I can tell you what, that is exhausting. And this is something I do with teaching yoga teachers as well when we teach a class. It's really similar to this podcast. You know, we're putting it out there and we're not knowing how it's going to be received. Yeah, if you get feedback, that's a bonus, but we're not doing it for the feedback. And so you're putting it out into the unknown or into the darkness without attachment. Really important. Because we're not doing it to get that recognition. We're not doing it to get that praise. We are doing it to transform, to hold a space where others can be free and can come home to themselves and can transform. That is it. So that's a really important piece here, is why am I doing this? And make it about that. Okay? That helps you get out of your way. And then what if making yourself visible sets someone else free? See this as an extension of your mission and purpose. And, you know, I have a funny relationship with social media. I'm sure many of us do. But I've reconciled that in a way, and I've actually come to a place where I just see this as an extension of what I am here to do. And it's a pathway. It's a certain pathway that might invite people in. And it's a pathway where I can share. And I just share all of me and come from a really honest and real place. And then there's a full stop, because I then let go of how it's received. So I'm letting go of the judgment that may be circulating, because here's the thing. People are going to judge anyway. People are going to judge no matter what you do. So you may as well do something that you love and that you know you're here to do. You may as well go ahead and share your heart out and sing your song and share your voice. Because here's the other reality. Here's the other truth bomb. Not everyone is going to like you. And the quicker you can find acceptance around that, the freer you will be. Not everyone is going to like you. And that's okay. You are not the person for everyone. I'm not the person for everyone. I am sure I'm going to have people listening to this podcast that are like, who is that crazy lady? No, thank you. And I send them love and wish them on their way, because they will find someone that's ready for them, that they're ready for, right? And maybe along the way, I'll attract in those who are picking up what I'm putting out there. And that's great too. It's all welcome. But you need to realize that we're not going to be for everyone, and that's okay. All right, so there's this imposter syndrome that comes up. Very real. Who am I to do this? Who are you not to do this? Everyone starts at the beginning. Everyone. Oprah started at the beginning, right? Everyone starts at the beginning, and most people start with zero audience, or maybe just a handful of friends and family. We all start somewhere. Every creation was first a thought, and then somebody needed to get over themselves and start putting themselves out there. Okay? No one feels ready. And the discomfort is usually a sign of exactly where you need to go, exactly where you need to be. So if you are sitting back here going, yeah, I resonate with this, I feel the discomfort, I feel the fear, please do it anyway. And start messy if you need to. Just start to share. Share what's on your heart, share who you are. Okay? So discomfort's usually a sign of exactly where you need to go. And in summary, friends, you might actually find that you enjoy it. Wouldn't that be amazing? So I hope this helps. Let me know. You can shoot me an email, amy@thelightplace.com.au, or drop into my DMs on Instagram, amy_thelightplace. I'd love to hear your thoughts around this topic and how you navigate it, because this is a conversation that we need to have. And as women, I think it's so important that we support other women. So do me a favor, if you see someone in your community put themselves out there in this way, offer them some encouragement and some support, because it'll really mean a lot to them. And you might have a sense of the journey that they've been on to get there and what they've needed to move through. And if you need support with this, I happen to be very well experienced in supporting people to move beyond some of these subconscious limiting blocks and beliefs that can really hold them back. All right. I love you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Talk soon.